Imagine that you're ready to order your dream car. Where are you? At the car dealership? No, you're in front of your computer. It's perfectly configured and you're ready to commit the payment of 6.4 Bitcoins. A few seconds after pushing the Buy Now button, this will give immediately birth of the digital twin, a full digital representation of your physical car to become. You will own the digital twin until you dispose or you transfer the car to someone else. One of the key elements of the digital twin is its wallet, and part of the 6.4 Bitcoin will be sent directly to it. Now the digital twin will trigger its first smart contract called Build the Car, ordering all the pieces from the different car suppliers and pay them automatically, reserve the spot on the production line, and so on. Finally, the car exits the car manufacturer and executes the second smart contract called Delivery and transact with the shipping insurance, the shipping suppliers, the custom declaration, and the tax authorities. Finally, the car arrives at destination and you just take ownership by scanning the QR code with your private key to allow the transfer from the car manufacturer to you. You're very excited, you enter the car, and the first thing you do, you create your own wallet for the car to pay for subscriptions such as the progressive insurance, payable per minute, the music service, pay per use, and finally the ludicrous mode, because it's the first time that you own an electric car and you can wait to test it out for at least 2 weeks. I leave it up to you if this idea becomes a reality in 5, 10, 20 years. Who knows? But for now, let's discuss the blockchain adoption in the enterprise.
Welcome everyone. This is another episode or chapter in Crypto World Took. So this week we'll be talking about giants like Google, Amazon, and the like, Alibaba probably, and what they have to do and say in the crypto scene. I mean, it's important. I think it's a topic that's been discussed more and more. And what are they searching in our decentralized world? How will they influence it? So Nicolas has prepared a presentation. I'm very excited myself, so I'm looking forward to seeing it. And we hope to have a lot more of these presentations in the future to entertain you, to spark discussions, and hopefully, grow our community. So without further ado, Nicolas.
Thank you. Okay, my name is Nicolas, Nicolas Berney. I work for SAP. It's kind of this big company that not too many people know, but we are in the enterprise world. We'll talk about a bit more about that. I'm in front solutions. So, for example, marketing, CRM, all those things. So that's what I do at SAP. So my journey to crypto started in 2013. Why do you laugh? I was so excited. It has been verified. So I was verified, opened an account in Japan, and I sent some funds there. And literally 2 weeks after the collapse, I lost everything. Luckily, it was not too much, but so it took me a while. It took me about till last year, 2017, to come back in the game. I went to a meetup. Thank you actually for doing this meetup. And I met a very exciting company. It's called Gladius, because I'm in the business world, and Gladius had really an interesting business idea to counterattack DOS, denial of services attacks, with blockchain, and try to bring this to the market. Really excited. 2 new guys, they were 18, both guys, and I was so excited that I actually invested in them right away. Then obviously, like I guess a lot of people here, kind of very excited about the whole thing, so I just put a lot of money there. And then, well, now we are where we are, so I'm kind of not doing so much speculation anymore, but more interested in enterprise blockchain. So today I'm just going to talk about the trends about in the enterprise, what blockchain means in enterprise and what the enterprise is looking at. Talk about the giant companies, who is investing really in the blockchain space. And then talk about permissioned blockchain, also called private blockchain. What is really a private blockchain? And what is the difference between a public and private? And then finally, let me give you some context about SAP. What do they do? Because I have access to information internally. So we are 100 people actually work full-time on blockchain. And there's quite some investment here. All right, blockchain trends. Let's start with this one. Why company wants to invest or enterprise wants to invest in blockchain? Gartner Group, maybe you know some of those groups already. There's Forrester Group, IDC, there's quite a lot of groups. Then they all point in the same direction. It's going to be big, but we just have to look at the time here. You see, 2030, maybe somewhere there could be $1 trillion. So, but what's interesting is there is definitely an interest from the enterprise perspective. So that's why companies are investing today in blockchain and really trying to understand what kind of use case and how much money we can get from that. So like this is an example of the different trends. I'm not going to go all the different trends, but one trend that is the enabler is this digital twin I was talking about before with the car. Because the digital twin is actually the enabler of many different technology around it. And one, obviously, that we need to really take care of is the machine learning, AI, automation that comes also with that. And when you have all those technology, the new technology trends are coming in 0 to 5 years, then there's the mesh. And what glues them all together is actually the blockchain technology. And I'm glad that all those reviewers actually are investing a lot into the blockchain space. So who knows that one? A few, the hype cycle, you start here, you're so excited to invest like I did, and now you go into the disillusion time. So obviously this is just, you can decide where we are in the blockchain space right now. Have you spotted it? Yeah, it's there. It's going a bit down now. It kind of makes sense. I would agree as well that we are kind of here. That's clear. But when we look at the new technology coming in, for example, flying autonomous vehicle, that makes sense. It's kind of at the beginning here. Or for example, quantum computing. It's definitely in the innovation phase. So I think that's interesting to kind of have a look at the different technology. The Gartner Group did a survey because it's like, come on, what's going on in the enterprise? We want to really know. So they did an interview about 300 CIOs worldwide, and they say, do you use blockchain? Do you have project on it? And the reality is actually very little. Only 1% of the CIOs have invested and deployed the blockchain solution. So we are at the beginning, and there are some interest, there's some no interest. So the good news is there's still a lot to do. So when we look about the timeline now, I think we all agree that actually today is a perfect day. You know that today is 10 years day per day that the white paper was created in 2009. And so this is really kind of the year of enablement. We talked about experiments. We're going to do many different experiments. They're going to fail. And this will last about till 2020. That's what I say. Then the next phase is going to be the inter-organizational process. Inter means it's not only one company, but it's a network of companies that they're going to transact and do business together. The next one is there's going to be a complete offering on blockchain. So that's you, not you, but the enterprise will say, I'm going to buy a blockchain technology end to end. And this will include, obviously, decentralization and tokenization if you need to transfer value between the different participants. And then finally, this is the car example I was telling you about at the beginning. This is going to be completely changed the autonomy of smart contracts. They're going to execute by themselves, and we can even imagine that enterprise might actually run completely autonomously. Is that the reality? Hard to say, but that could be a possibility for small companies maybe, or small processes. All right, let's talk about the giant companies. Who are those giant companies? So where do you go? Well, you go to another one who does some analysis about giant companies. So Forbes, some people might know also, Forbes 2000 lists the big company in the world. And so I took this and I just extracted 2 types of companies that are really involved in blockchain. The first one are the one on the left here. Those are the tech companies, the software companies that are developing solution today. For example, if I take IBM here, today they are spending 160 million a year developing blockchain technology. And they have more than 200 or 300 professionals doing only blockchain. But here in this category, they are investing but making no money yet. Because they're not selling blockchain solution. So this is really an investment part. Then on the right, you have the consulting firms like Accenture, Deloitte, Wipro, and all those guys, and they are really much involved in blockchain. Why? Because they already make money. Because they actually advise a lot of people around the world what to do with blockchain, other technology as well, but also blockchain. So they're actually quite successful right now in the blockchain space here on the right. All right, so let's focus on 3 examples from the bottom to the up. So IBM, Oracle, and Microsoft. And I'm just going to share with you just a few things that they're actually doing today. Let's start with IBM. So IBM is a company that has been around for more than 100 years now. And it's really nice to see them that they're very involved in the blockchain technology. And by doing so, they are very much involved in an open source solution called Hyperledger Fabric. And so it is an open source, so everybody can participate. You can see here there's more than 250 companies participating in this open source solution. But they're definitely one of the main driver of this whole open source. So it is a permission network. So we'll talk about that a bit further. One thing that is interesting in permission or private blockchain is like you can do private transaction. You choose if you want to publish the transaction to the ledger or not. And so depending on which transaction you want to do. We'll talk about that a bit later. So a typical use case is Walmart. Everybody knows Walmart in the US and maybe other countries as well. So IBM worked with them to put food safety with Walmart. And they are going to now implement this solution. So this is going to be live at the end of the year with Walmart. And so that we are able to trace the food. So if there are, for example, some toxin in the food and they have to remove the food very fast, they are able to trace the product from the creation to the shelf. And so before it was 6 days, I believe, and now they can see that in about 2 seconds because the technology allows you to do that. That's one example. The second example is Oracle. Oracle also is doing something with blockchain. But one thing that I want to notice is like all those companies, they're not selling blockchain. They're always selling a solution that includes blockchain. And you can see here, for example, they have already a solution called track and trace. They already have a solution about intelligent cold chain. And then they add blockchain technology where it makes sense. And so that's why they are involved in that, because it makes sense in certain use cases. The use cases that they are working on, it's a fun video to look at, is this brewery. What they wanted to do, they want when you drink the beer at the bar, you are able to really see all the ingredients, where they come from and everything. So this is really about the traceability, about all the ingredients that compose the final product. Next is Microsoft. So Microsoft is also very much involved. All those companies are or developing blockchain solution, or they're also hosting blockchain, existing blockchain. And in this case, we have 3 that are supported by Azure, Microsoft Azure. It's their cloud platform, Corda, and then Hyper Fabric as well. And so this example, this is actually a Swiss company. Who knows Bühler? A few, okay, exactly. So they are very innovative in their way they do things. And one thing that is interesting, they are touching 65% of the world food's grain, all through the machine. It's pretty impressive. And so obviously that comes with a lot of responsibility too, because they need to make sure that the safety of grains are there. And so they need, for example, to do analysis about toxins, because a lot of people are allergic about certain toxin, and so they are using computer vision to be able to remove the bad seed right away at extremely high speed. So this is one of the food safety. Another one, that food safety that they want to put in place, is again trace. Trace is really, I would say, the first use case. And so Bühler is working with one of the biggest miller in the UK. And so they are building now this traceability also from the grain perspective. So with those three examples, I think I was able to show you that it's not the blockchain itself, but it's part of a bigger solution that is shipped then to the final clients. And that makes sense now, because that is something that those big guys can sell, because you cannot just sell blockchain like that. Okay, so let's talk about the private permissioned blockchain. So there's this thing, okay, are private and permissioned blockchain the same thing? They're almost identical, but there's just a little difference. Just for the sake of simplicity, because I have a hard time to say permissioned and permissionless, I will just use public and private. Let's jump in. So first of all, there's always this big question, do you need blockchain? Well, if you ask a lot of ICOs, most of the ICOs, you don't need a blockchain because it doesn't make sense. Yeah, to make a lot of money, yes, maybe that's a good use case. But from the utility part of it, or the token, doesn't really make sense. And it's the same with the enterprise. So there's a really good one, a good flow here to decide if you need a blockchain or not. I'm not going to go too much in detail, but we'll just have a few questions that are interesting. You can here see the resources. So let's say with blockchain. So what are the questions we need to ask to understand if you need blockchain in enterprise? So the first one is multiple participants. I think this is pretty much the key enabler of everything we do, especially in enterprise. If the enterprise is saying, I have a problem, but I want to resolve this problem only inside, blockchain makes absolutely no sense. It's a shift in doing businesses. You have to agree in a network of participants, 3 or more usually, that you want to resolve a bigger problem and we are ready to work together, which is a completely new way of working together. And sometimes you have to work with the competition as well. And you need to be ready to do that. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. The second one is multiple data writers. That means simply, is it one participant who is writing on the ledger, or can everyone in the network write on the ledger? And if it's everyone, then it makes more sense to have the blockchain here. The third thing is immutability. So, okay, everything you write on a ledger will be forever. It's clear. And then also shared control. Obviously, we see that in the banking industry and things like that. Are you ready to actually distribute the control? And not only having a middleman like a bank, Uber, and the like, so everything is centralized. So if you say yes about all those things, then okay, blockchain might be an option for you. Then finally, we'll talk about public or private. So do you want to go maybe on public or the private? So the 3 questions are coming here. Do you want to share the data with everyone? Because if you are on a public blockchain, you will share everything. If you are on a private blockchain, as I said before, everything is visible to all the participants, but you have the option to hide certain transactions between 2 participants. So this gives kind of this privacy also, things you don't want to publish everything to the ledger. Then finally, the third thing is control functionality. So this is typically, if you do private blockchain, you are able to add functionality much in a much easier way than public, obviously, because you know all the participants. Like if it's 5 or 10, everybody agrees, okay, let's put the new functionality in, it's done. Bitcoin is not as easy. And then finally, do you trust the participants? If you don't trust them, anonymous, public. If you trust them, then you go to private. So those are, I would say, the question that we should ask when a company said, hey, I'm interested in blockchain. Okay, let's really look at it. And most of the time, it's a no-go. This is also some attributes about public and private. Interesting things, I think, about the consensus mechanism. So when we talk about proof of work, proof of stakes, that makes sense. It's also a lot of work and intensive, that's why it's slower. And on the other side, here, the consensus mechanism are a bit different. Because as you trust everybody in a node, you could have a simple consensus mechanism where everyone in a node will create a block in a sequence. And then it's fine. Hi.
Sorry.
No problem. Also, something that is interesting is, well, you don't need token in the private because as you all, because maybe the use case is not about value exchange. The use case is about traceability, is about visibility, and so on, and auditability. So there's no use of token. I mean, you can use them because obviously you might exchange value between the participants, but that's not an obligation. All right, that was kind of a quick look about the different private and public blockchains. Then let's look in the SAP context, what SAP is doing, and also what kind of service SAP is proposing on the system. So first, before we go into blockchain, like all the big guys, we are handling a lot of different technology. And maybe you know, maybe not, but SAP is a German company with 90,000 employees worldwide, so it's quite a big company. And what they do, they only have been focusing on business application. So when you run a business like Nestle, Roche, Novartis, all those big guys, they all run SAP to do production, to do finance, to do taxes. So this is the core application they currently do. But one time comes where, guess what? We want innovation. And those companies said, can you put innovation at that level? And the reality, it's very difficult. So instead, SAP created a portfolio of innovation called SAP Leonardo, which contains a lot of the innovation that you plug into existing business process. So let's have a look. How does it look? So you can see those innovations are here. So blockchain is one, obviously, but machine learning is one, IoT is one, big data, analytics. This is also a very important part. And so all those innovations are packaged and ready to be used in the enterprise. And how is it used? It runs on so-called the SAP Cloud platform here. So it's a platform that runs all those technology, and then you plug them into existing business processes. Something also to notice is that this runs not only on SAP infrastructure, but runs on many different infrastructure that is available around the world. All right. So what kind of service does SAP provide in this blockchain space? So the first one is the Hyperledger Fabric, like you would expect. So if you say, hey, I want to buy some blockchain by SAP, then you go into the console and then you spin up an instance. One is not enough. Obviously, you have to have a network, but that's the way it works. Then the second one is the multi-chain. So multi-chain is a fork from Bitcoin, and so the root are Bitcoin, I would say, and then made it for the enterprise ready, so that you can do those stream, those private communication between the participants. And then finally, the new addition now that is supported as well is Quorum. So Quorum is another enterprise blockchain, and this one is not on Bitcoin, but this one is based on Ethereum. So quite interesting. But so what? You know, you have now you can run your blockchain on some platform. Maybe you have some people, network, and stuff like that. The most important here is that you are with those services, you will be able to connect to your existing business process. So you will enhance your business process with blockchain technology, and I will tell you, and I will show you afterwards an example of how it looks like. Here a few screenshots. So if you sign up with that, so you will have all your instances running. If they are running locally on different platform or not, even on-prem. So this is also possible. You have a block explorer like you would expect on a blockchain, and then finally you will be able to see all the hashes and all the different transactions on the blockchain. So this is what is provided. But now, okay, great. You have an infrastructure that works, and it's great. How is it really used now? And I want to. So SAP has been working on hundreds of pilots and things, and I don't want to share all of them because some are interesting, some are less. But I choose this one because this one is going to be live at the end of the year. And this one is a real case for the pharma industry. So what are we talking about? We're talking about here about the drug supplies, especially in the US. When a big pharma is creating a drug and then sell them to hospital, for example, let's say they sell like 100,000 drugs to one hospital. 6 months after, the hospital say, guess what? I didn't use them all. I want to ship back 50,000 to you, and then you give the money back. So this is quite a normal things that big pharma do, and so it's called resellable drugs. And so now the problem with the fraud and so on, there was no way really to avoid fraud and really to track the drug itself to at the granularity level that is enough so you can resell the drug. So last year there was this new thing where now the drug companies have to be able to tag every single drug they ship out. And then next year, not only they have to tag it, but they have to give a mean to hospitals, wholesalers, a way to control the drugs and make sure that the drug I have in my hand is actually the real drug. So what does that mean? Well, this looks a bit scary, right? Me too. I don't like it so much. It looks like kind of SAP stuff, kind of the old-fashioned thing. But one thing that is important is like track and trace is not new. I mean, it has been forever there. And a company like Roche, Novartis, they all have this in place. So it's called SAP Advanced Track and Trace for pharma companies. So they have information. The information is already at Roche or Novartis, but they don't share it with the rest of the world, which they have to do now for in America. So this is where blockchain really makes sense, because now we are talking about the manufacturer here. They have this process already in place for a long time, and we're going with SAP Leonardo blockchain. We're going to write a few information that are actually relevant to publish on the nodes. So this project has been kicked off with more than 10 pharma companies in the US, because they all agreed, because they don't have the choice, to publish this information on a public ledger, or kind of a private ledger, because only the participants can access this information. And one participant is the wholesaler. So the wholesaler with this app anytime can scan any drug and will get the information, not from the manufacturer anymore, but directly from the blockchain. And so that's a use case where we have multi-participants, where you trust each other but not too much, because it's the competition. So you have to find a good balance between trust and sharing information. How does it look like? So from the app perspective, so you have the wholesaler is going to scan this information. You will get directly the information about what's needed, the expiration date, and so on. And then what is very interesting also, you will be able to really identify all the events that happens to this drug that I have in my hand. And so that will really help to avoid fraud and so on. And finally, also the location of your drugs if you want to. So this is very an exciting examples where really the blockchain really makes sense in this case. All right, so we are at the end. Remember back then, before 2000, You know, a lot of companies said, the internet, it will never work, it's only for geeks, no one understands what it is. Why should we invest? So a lot of companies back then decided to say, well, let's go into the wait and see group. And then, you know, anyway, we'll just go away. Who cares? We're not going to invest in that. And then, you know, do you want to be the next Kodak or not? Well, or do you want to do catch up afterwards? And I think that's a big comparison, because actually I took this picture, and it's kind of an old picture. And here it was internet before. Now we changed to Bitcoins or different things. And one thing that is interesting is I believe this will change the way we do things in the long run. Obviously not tomorrow, but it will really make a big difference. And especially the adoption. I mean, what I see with the enterprise is if we, this is my call to action to finish, if we help enterprises to run pilots and really, like the example I showed you before, examples of blockchain, this will really help adoption in enterprise, which will have a direct relationship to the adoption as well in the public. And so that we could all benefit from it. Thank you.
So you're recruiting us to SAP?
Yes.